leave off the glove and call him just Kid is very disrespectful." "Oh, you told me to remind you of that third pain," said the little girl. "Which proves my friendship for you," returned the sea serpent, blinking his blue eyes thoughtfully. "No one likes to be reminded of a pain, and that third pain was What was it?" asked Trot. "It was just a stomach ache," replied the king with a sigh. "What made it?" she inquired. "Just my carelessness," said Anko. "I'd been away to foreign parts, seeing how the Earth people were getting along. I found the Germans dancing the German, and the Dutch making Dutch cheese, and the Belgians combing their Belgian hairs, and the Turks eating turkey, and the Sardinians sardonically pickling sardines. Then I called on the Prince of Wales and—" "You mean the Prince of Wales," corrected Trot. "I mean what I say, my dear. I saw the battlefield where the Bull Run, but the Americans didn't. And when I got to France, I paid a Napoleon to see Napoleon with his bones apart. He was—" "Of course you mean," Trot was beginning, but the king would not give her a chance to correct him this time. "He was very hungry for Hungary," he continued, "and was rushin' so fast toward the poles that I thought he'd discover them. So as I was not accorded a royal welcome, I took French leave and came home again." "But the pain?" "On the way home," continued Anko calmly, "I was a little absent-minded and ate an anchor. There was a long chain attached to it, and as I continued to swallow the anchor, I continued to eat the chain. I never realized what I had done until I found a ship at the other end of the chain. Then I bit it off." "The ship?" asked Trot. "No, the chain. I didn't care for the ship, as I saw it contained some skippers. On the way home, the chain and anchor began to lie heavily in my stomach. I didn't seem to digest them properly, and by the time I got to my palace, where you will notice there is no throne, I was thrown into throes of severe pain. So I at once sent for Dr. Shark." "Are all your doctors sharks?" asked the child. "Yes. Aren't your doctors sharks?" he replied. "Not all of them," said Trot. "That is true," remarked Cap'n Bill. "But when you talk of lawyers—" "I'm not talking of lawyers," said Anko reprovingly. "I'm talking about my pain. I don't imagine anyone could suffer more than I did with that stomach ache." "Did you suffer long?" inquired Trot. "Why, about 7,482 feet and— I mean a long time." "It seemed like a long time," answered the king. "Dr. Shark said I ought to put a mustard poultice on my stomach. So I uncoiled myself and summoned my servants, and they began putting on the mustard plaster. It had to be bound all around me so it wouldn't slip off, and I began to look like an express package. In about 4 weeks, fully 1/2 of the pain had been covered by the mustard poultice, which got so hot that it hurt me worse than the stomach ache did." "I know," said Trot. "I had one once." "One what?" asked Anko. "A mustard plaster. They smart pretty bad, but I guess they're a good thing." "I got myself unwrapped as soon as I could," continued the king, "and then I hunted for the doctor, who hid himself until my anger had subsided. He has never sent in a bill, so I think he must be terribly ashamed of himself." "You're lucky, sir, to have escaped so easy," said Cap'n Bill. "But you seem pretty well now." "Yes, I'm more careful of what I eat," replied the sea serpent. "But I was saying when Trot interrupted me that you all belong to me because I have saved your lives. By the law of the ocean, you must obey me in everything." The sailor scowled a little at hearing this, but Trot laughed and said, "The law of the ocean isn't our law, 'cause we live on land." "Just now you are living in the ocean," declared Anko, "and as long as you live here, you must obey my commands." "What are your commands?" inquired the child. "Ah, that's the point I was coming to," returned the king with his comical smile. "The ocean is a beautiful place, and we who belong here love it dearly. In many ways, it's a nicer place for a home than the earth, for we have no sunstrokes, mosquitoes, earthquakes, or candy shops to bother us. But I am convinced that the ocean is no proper dwelling place for earth people, and I believe the mermaids did an unwise thing when they invited you to visit them." "I don't," protested the girl. "We've had a fine time, haven't we, Cap'n Bill?" "Well, it's been different from what I expected," admitted the sailor. "Our only thought was to give the earth people pleasure, your Majesty," pleaded Aquareine. I know, my dear queen, and it was very good of you," replied Anko. "But still, it was an unwise act, for earth people are as constantly in danger under water as we would be upon the land. So, having won the right to command you all, I order you to take little Mayre and Cap'n Bill straight home and there restore them to their natural forms. It's a dreadful condition, I know, and they must each have two stumbling legs instead of a strong, beautiful fish tail. But it is the fate of earth dwellers, and they cannot escape it." "In my case, your majesty, make it one leg," suggested Cap'n Bill. "Ah, yes, I remember. One leg and a wooden stick to keep it company. I issue this order, my friends, not because I am not fond of your society, but to keep you from getting into more trouble in a country where all is strange and unnatural to you. Am I right, or do you think I am wrong?" "You're quite correct, sir," said Cap'n Bill, nodding his head in approval. "Well, I'm ready to go home," said Trot. "But in spite of Zog, I've enjoyed my visit, and I shall always love the mermaids for being so good to me." That speech pleased Aquareine and Clia, who smiled upon the child and kissed her affectionately. "We shall escort you home at once," announced the queen. "But before you go," said King Anko, "I will give you a rare treat. It is one you will remember as long as you live. You shall see every inch of the mightiest sea serpent in the world all at one time." As he spoke, the purple and gold cloth was lifted by unseen hands and disappeared from view. And now Cap'n Bill and Trot looked down upon thousands and thousands of coils of the sea serpent's body, which filled all of the space at the bottom of the immense circular room. It reminded them of a great coil of garden hose, only it was so much bigger around and very much longer. Except for the astonishing size of the Ocean King, the sight was not an especially interesting one. But they told old Anko that they were very pleased to see him because it was evident he was very proud of his figure. Then the cloth descended again and covered all but the head, after which they bade the king goodbye and thanked him for all his kindness to them. "I used to think sea serpents were horrid creatures," said Trot, "but now I know they are good and big," added Cap'n Bill, realizing his little friend could not find another word that was complimentary. End of chapter 20.